Good morning, everyone. Let me know if you can hear me in the comments section. I'm going to give folks another minute or two to hop on, and then we will get started and talking about, big breath in, deep breath, another potentially big severe weather event coming our way for tomorrow. Unfortunately, I know a lot of folks are still kind of cleaning up from the mess on Friday, and what a mess that was. So, like last week, I'm going to ask you to share this as much as you can because we want folks to be aware of what's coming in tomorrow. A number of folks had their lives changed on Friday. They lost their houses, they lost their business, their place of business, their warehouse. Thankfully, nobody lost their life. That's the whole goal of keeping people prepared and things like that. But there were about half a dozen injuries with those tornadoes that came through on Friday. And by the way, the National Weather Service is still surveying some of those tornadoes. So if you're wondering why they haven't come to your specific hometown quite yet, they're still working on it. There's a lot. They finished with the Iowa side the other day. They got into the Illinois side yesterday. We know about Geneseo. We know about Atkinson and Hoople and those areas. Today, I think it's going to be more of the Mount Carroll region up in Carroll County. So we'll see what comes out of those storm surveys today, and we'll continue to add to the list. I'm sure the counts for tornadoes is still going to go up. As of right now, throughout the entire Quad Cities region, it's at 13. As of the last update, which we got last night, I'm sure there's going to be another update coming in this afternoon and evening that will further add to that number as they finish up those surveys. But looks like those survey teams will be busy again because the potential is real, very much so, as we go into tomorrow. So now that I've given us a couple of minutes to get into the live stream here, we'll go ahead and we'll get things started. What's nice about this is it gives me a little more time to dive into some of the finer details, some of the other things that I don't really have time to do on air. So hopefully you find this helpful. Again, our goal is to prepare you. We don't want to be scaring you, because if you're prepared, then you're going to be ready to go and you're going to be safe and sound for whatever comes your way tomorrow. So Friday, you guys got a good taste of what could potentially happen tomorrow, and you got to kind of practice your severe weather plan. So if it went well, I encourage you to use that same plan tomorrow. If it didn't went well, think back on some of the things you can improve on so that you've got a really solid plan of action ready to go for tomorrow. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started here, and away we go. So issue number one here, let me pass forward some of the morning stuff that we typically see. Not really expecting too much exciting in terms of any threat for severe weather tonight. In fact, I showed this morning. The marginal has even gone away. I'm not surprised. I wasn't really too excited about what was going to happen tonight anyway. But tomorrow, that's the day that, again, we have to be really aware of what's going on with the forecast. And tomorrow is going to be different in several different ways compared to Friday. We've got different fronts crossing the region. We've got a different kind of air mass, a different amount of instability, and also some more wind shear dynamics to work through as well. So really have to pay attention to what's going to go on tomorrow. I'm going to give you a scenario of some of the things that we could see go on to kind of help you prepare for what may happen. It's not a guarantee that it will, but I want to show you what it looks like as of this morning. So this is having a little bit of a deja vu effect, I think, on many of us, myself included, because I came back into work this morning, and here we are again. We're a day ahead of time, and we've got a threat track level 4 out of 5 on the board, and this is for tomorrow. And again, it encompasses the entire Quad Cities. It's not just one side of the river, it's both sides, north and south. So this means another significant outbreak of severe weather is likely as we go into tomorrow. And that does unfortunately include, again, the potential for some strong tornadoes. You're seeing that potential highlighted in that circle polka dot pattern, which includes really all of our hometowns. Also notice too that we're in the very likely category for tornadoes as a whole. So we've seen many of these tornadoes from Friday range in strength from EF1 to EF2. In fact, there's a surprising number of EF2s. Well, I shouldn't say surprising because we were expecting that, but it goes to show that, the potential was definitely realized on Friday, and it looks like that potential will exist again as we go through tomorrow for everyone. Now, the one thing that's different about this one is the damaging wind threat is just a step lower than what we saw on Friday. Notice there's no hatched area indicating 70 plus mile an hour wind gusts, but we are in the very likely category for seeing some strong wind gusts with those storms as they push through tomorrow. One thing that's changed, that is the hail threat. We are now in what we call that hatched or polka dot area, meaning in those areas along and west of the Mississippi River, that's where we could see hail up to the size of golf balls and larger, including tennis ball size hail, with some of these storms that are going to be developing for tomorrow. So the tornadic threat is fairly high. The hail threat is higher than Friday. The damaging wind threat is lower, if you're keeping up with me so far on the tally. So let's summarize it in one graphic. And yes, this is going to be a longer time scale than what we saw on Friday too, because you notice at the top it says from 2 o'clock Tuesday afternoon until 3 o'clock Wednesday morning. Why such a long time frame? Well, there's going to be multiple things going on. We could have one round early in the afternoon. If that happens, it kind of squashes potential for really strong development later in the afternoon. But there's going to be yet another round coming in well after dark. We're talking after midnight, getting into the pre-dawn hours of Wednesday morning. That could also be severe, including large hail, wind, and tornadoes well after dark. So that's what concerns me. I don't like it when that stuff comes in after everybody's gone to bed, because then it's a higher risk event, because a lot of people are sleeping. They may not have their cell phone next to them or a weather radio to go off and wake them up when this comes through in the middle of the night. So this is leaning more towards a later day event compared to what we had on Friday. But there you see again, the hail threat is elevated. The tornado threat is also elevated. The damaging wind threat's just a smidge lower. So let me show you what the dynamics look like on the weather map here. Anytime you get a warm front draped across the region, especially this time of year, that spells some big problems, because along that warm front, you've got a lot of spin going on in the atmosphere. To the north of the front, you've got winds coming directly out of the east. To the south of the front, you've got winds coming more out of the south-southwest. You've also got a ton of storm energy sitting underneath that front to the south of it. And what oftentimes will happen is you'll get a storm to pop right along the warm front. It starts rapidly rotating, and then it starts feeding off of that high level of storm energy to the south of it. Both of those things combined always spell big-time trouble when it comes to the threat for tornadoes. So there you see the front's position. It's just to our south at 3 o'clock. And as we put this into motion, you're going to notice that big cluster of thunderstorms begin to take off to our southwest and then quickly race off to the northeast through 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the evening. Any storm within that cluster, and it may be expanded further to the west. Again, this is a simulation of what may happen. It's not a guarantee, but a simulation. But any storm within that cluster that can attach itself to that warm front will definitely be capable of producing a tornado, and based off the wind shear that I've seen, it could be another strong tornado. So that's my concern with this round as we get into tomorrow afternoon. Now you notice on this run there was nothing before this. This is our first batch of thunderstorms, and it comes in here later in the afternoon into the evening. That's kind of the perfect scenario to get your maximum severe potential. And I'll show you why here in a second. So there's round number one, should we not get anything sooner in the afternoon, by the way. And then that round will lift to the north. We'll get into what we call the warm sector. Temperatures will rapidly climb into the 70s and stay there through much of the early evening. A lot of warmth. Notice we still have some storm energy lying around, which any storm could pop and kind of utilize that. But then we go into the overnight hours, and we wait for this here. There's likely going to be a squall line that develops to our west and then quickly racing eastward. Now that line, as you're seeing here, is not getting here until 3 o'clock in the morning. There's still storm energy sitting around. You're seeing that on the map here. And there still is the potential, like what we saw on Friday, that once that line segment comes in, that we could see those spin-up tornadoes on the leading edge of this. Unfortunately, this is at 3 o'clock in the morning. Again, most people are asleep. They're not aware of what's going on. So that's why this is a little bit more dangerous, the timing of this squall line coming in for this next event coming in on Wednesday morning. Other thing I want to show you here too, and we're able to put numbers on this. This is called the tornado potential, the future track tornado potential. We put this on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest potential for a tornado, 10 being the highest potential for a tornado. So here's as the warm front is lifting through tomorrow afternoon. This is 4 o'clock. Notice it's fairly elevated up and around the Sauk Valley, especially up towards Clinton. Here in the Quad Cities, it's a 4 out of 10. So let's put the storms in here on future track, and there you see that potential for a tornado beginning to build as we go into tomorrow evening, and especially later on in the afternoon. It's still a 6 out of 10 in Clinton, a 7 out of 10 in the Sauk Valley, so that's pretty concerning, especially the fact that the warm front is there and it's interacting with those storms that are starting to fire up there too. So That's, again, the primary concern. If we can hold off stuff from developing and firing early in the afternoon, it means the evening stuff is going to be quite strong to potentially very severe, and that's what you're seeing here. So let's continue on. You're going to push that activity to the north. We get that little quiet period, and then we wait for the squall line to the west to move in. But notice as it does, and this is after midnight, your tornado numbers are still kind of elevated a little bit. So that's why we could still see that brief spin-up tornado, the exact same situation we saw on Friday with that line of storms. The exception is this is coming in way later. It's coming in at 3 o'clock in the morning. We don't like to see that for sure. Let me show you another example of what the wind shear is going to look like as we go into Tuesday itself. At the ground here, where we are, of course, Tuesday, 5 o'clock in the evening, you've got winds right out of the east. Well, if you follow the arrows as we get higher and higher into the atmosphere, you're creating that perfect curve. And what that is that's the curve you need to get the spin going throughout the atmosphere. And if one of those storms can latch onto that curve and that spin, you're going to have some big time trouble. And this is a perfect representation, a visual representation of how that's going to work. The higher up you go, those winds, they're turning, and that means you get those rotating storms. So certainly not something that we want to see, and that potential is very much going to be there. So here's the timeline I put together. I hope this makes a little bit of sense because I wanted to put this in graphic form. It's hard to explain with just a bunch of text. So scenario number 1 is we get storms to fire early. We're talking 1, 2 o'clock. If that happens, notice it really kind of bumps into the peak heating period. That keeps us cloudy. It utilizes whatever little storm energy we have. Those storms, while they could be strong, they will fizzle out any potential for some really strong storms to fire in that 4 o'clock onward time frame. If we don't get any storms to fire, say between 1, 2, and 3 o'clock, and we get a lot of sun during that time, that's when your spidey senses, if you will, really need to be heightened, because that means a ton of storm energy sitting around for those supercells to start firing along the warm front between 4, 5, and 6 o'clock. They'll have a ton of energy, a ton of wind shear, and that means potentially some very, very severe weather coming in between that time frame. Regardless of what happens early in the day, we're still going to have a very decent squall line coming in late at night. That's between 2 in the morning and 4 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday. So that event has no bearing whatsoever on what happens earlier in the day. It's the evening event between that 4, 5, and 6. That's what depends on what happens before that. So hopefully that makes sense. It is going to be one of those days, unlike Friday, where if you don't see the sun out at all Tuesday afternoon, then you kind of know, okay, there's not as much energy and the storms won't be as severe. Not to say we're not going to get a severe storm, but at least the coverage should be somewhat limited. So that's what I want you guys to prepare for. So when we're talking about, the fact that there is another strong potential for EF2 tornadoes, I want to remind you of what that is. They cause considerable damage, just like we saw on Friday. That means roofs are torn off businesses, homes, and buildings. Houses can be shifted. We actually had that happen once with one of these tornadoes on Friday. Also, trees are snapped. A lot of outbuildings are completely destroyed, and there's also heavy damage to a lot of farm buildings as well. That's winds up to 135 miles per hour. Strongest tornado that I've seen out of that whole system was actually northeast of Ottumwa. That was an EF4, and thankfully there was only one of those, but oh my goodness, the video was absolutely terrifying. So that's the timing and everything that we've got right now in terms of how this system is going to play out and come in and do things. Very conditional tomorrow. Again, my hope is that something fires early, it's not severe, it eats all the storm energy, and we don't have to worry about stuff in the afternoon that just kind of squashes it. But that may not be the case. The potential is definitely there that we may stay dry through the early afternoon, build up the storm energy, and then that gets us into some trouble as we get into tomorrow afternoon. So I'm going to put the threat thing back up here so you guys can see that, the timing again, and then we'll go through some of the questions and see what you guys got for me here on this Monday. Let's start with YouTube like we did last time. I think that worked out really well. Cindy's asking about the probability for Princeton. I think it is pretty high. Notice where you were in relation to the warm front. You're going to be awfully close to that thing. And again, if we can get something to pop after the 2, 3 o'clock hour, then we're going to be in big trouble. So if you're in Princeton, you're definitely going to be within that zone. I would not be surprised, Tyler, if we get another high-end level 5 risk out of 5 tomorrow. It's going to be last minute. They don't like to put those out too far in advance because we have to wait for all the ingredients to really make sure they're going to come together. So no guarantee, but again, I would not be surprised if we had a repeat of that like we did on Friday. Let's see who else we've got this morning. Any questions? Hi, Linnell. This is going to be an afternoon and evening. If you have stuff going on in the morning, no problems there. Robul, we do not need a work-from-home job. We're going to report you to spam. It's kind of been fun doing this. We've been getting a lot of these lately. You're welcome, LJ. You're welcome, Rebecca. LJ, yeah, we could. I mean, for sure, we're going to see something after dark. There's no question in my mind that squall line is going to come through after midnight into early Wednesday morning. That will be after dark, and it will have a tornado potential with it as well. Linnell, very similar to Friday. Tornadoes possible. Large hail definitely on the table. Carrie saying she camps in Amboy, and a lot of campers were destroyed Friday. I'd believe it. I would believe it. Lois, very concerned about those areas too, because it is going to be right near the warm front. So that's going to be worth watching. Really, nobody is in a higher risk, let's say, than areas that are right along that warm front, and that's what we're going to be watching very carefully. You're welcome, Kelly. I'm glad that helps. And yeah, I'm hoping we can avoid the worst of it this time. But again, I want to prepare you for everything, because the more prepared you are, the safer you're going to be on Tuesday when these things come through. So that's what we're going to be watching. Tony, yes, that is true. Unfortunately, thankfully, again, no deaths with this. Dawn, you're welcome. Janet's wondering about Galva. Yes, you're also going to be near the warm front. It's worth watching as we go into tomorrow afternoon. And yes, Patty, we're hoping for the same as well. So we're going to plan on doing this again tomorrow, same time, 9 o'clock. We'll do a YouTube Live, a Facebook Live, see if anything's changed there, see if they've upped the risk level. But again, today is the day to prepare yourself for what may potentially go down here tomorrow. Again, if you can, share this feed with folks on your feed if you can. That way we get the word out. And that's what we're going to see what happens there. Up a couple more last-minute people into the YouTube Live. Warren County, yes, definitely. Though your threat is earlier in the afternoon, you're going to get warm sectored by the time we get into the afternoon, and that will quickly end the storm threat for you until Wednesday morning when the cold front moves through. Yes, Ann is no longer with us. She took a job closer to family. That's all I can say for that. We're going to wish her well. Casey, let's see. Yeah, there's definitely going to be plenty of CAPE. That is for sure. We're not going to be seeing any non-ample supply of that. That's for sure. Tony, I agree. We need more tornado shelters. Absolutely. Derek, yes, we're worried also about Maquoketa because this cold front, the warm front will be in your neck of the woods as we go into Tuesday afternoon. So that'll be something that we'll be keeping a very, very close eye on. Kathy, yes, there is also the possibility that we get a cap in the atmosphere or a lid where a lot of warm air can overcome some storm development. We could see that in the afternoon. We're not likely going to see that with the storms overnight. Kim is asking about Muscatine. You are definitely going to be along the warm front, and you want to be well aware of what could potentially happen. Peru, again, is more of an early afternoon threat. You get the warm sector in the afternoon, then you have to wait for the storms late at night into the very early morning hours of Wednesday. And with that, I think we're good. We are all caught up. So I want to thank you guys for joining me on the live stream this morning. Again, we're going to do this same time, same place tomorrow at 9 o'clock. We'll do another YouTube and Facebook Live to keep you informed. We'll see if anything changes. Rest assured, though, we're going to be here just like we were on Friday. We'll have folks in the Beast. We'll have folks in studio. We're likely going to have some reporters scattered around the area, too, so we can get you to the damage, show you what's been going on, and, of course, what they're experiencing. I think folks tend to take these storms a little more seriously when we actually show you what's happening and the potential that's there. So you can count on that to repeat itself again for Tuesday should these storms get bad. We'll be here, and we're going to track those and guide you through every step of the way, because the better prepared you are, the more safe you're going to be as these storms come in on Tuesday. So we'll talk to you more tomorrow, and of course there's going to be a new update with the Storm Prediction Center at 11:30 this morning, including tomorrow's update. So tune in, GMQC at 11. I'll have that update as soon as it comes out, and we'll see if there are any changes then. You guys enjoy the rest of your Monday. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning.
How you doing?
I just love to just show up with a camera and start taking pictures of people.
I don't mind.